sunny spaces, smiling faces, happy places. But every sunny space holds a shadow. Behind every smile are sharp teeth. And every happy place has something sinister lurking just below the surface.
Welcome to We Saw the Devil, the podcast diving deep into the chilling realms of true crime. Join your host Robin as she unravels mysteries that have left investigators baffled and armchair sleuths obsessed. Be forewarned, dear listener. We Saw the Devil is not for the faint of heart. Our unflinching exploration will take you to the darkest corners of the psyche and through the unimaginable depths of human darkness to unearth stark secrets to the harsh light of day. Nothing will be left untouched. Are you ready? Are you sure? We saw the devil.
Hello, everyone. You are listening to We Saw the Devil. This is Robin, and yeah, I'm back. I know I've said that before, but y'all, it has been a wild month and a half, like almost 2 months. I got COVID again. Then I got this weird follow-up respiratory thing, seasonal allergy slash cold. I still have no hearing whatsoever out of my left ear. So sincerest apologies in post and in editing if I miss anything because I am partially deaf. But I've missed y'all and I've missed talking about true crime and not so much Chris Chan if you've been following the We Saw the Devil's Instagram, but there's a lot to talk about. And I've been through it for the last month and a half, and I'm really excited to come back and discuss all of these things with you. But yeah, how have all of you been? I feel like I'm so far outside the realm of true crime as it stands right now in terms of current news and case updates. Like, I get the Reddit updates for like the Moscow, Idaho case, Moscow 4. I get case updates, obviously, for Lori Vallow, like seeing Summer Shiflett is going to be attending Crime Con this year, which is taking place seriously, legitimately here in my city. Yeah, but I'm kind of outside the realm. So kicking back off, and I've gotten a lot of messages and a lot of emails from you guys with particular case requests. As always, Patreon patrons get first dibs on that. All you need to know is that I am back and I'm alive, partially deaf, but still alive. Other than getting pretty sick, I did see Chelsea Wolfe earlier this month, which was absolutely incredible. Random throw out there, but if you have the chance to see Chelsea Wolfe live, it is just ethereal. I can't even begin to describe it. She is absolutely amazing live. And I wasn't sure with the newest album how that would turn out live, but it really, really, really is something special. I haven't watched too many true crime documentaries or shows or anything. To be honest with you, when I'm sick, I really just want to watch kind of comfort shows, right? Like Spirited Away. And then I actually rewatch. I don't know, this is going to date me, okay? This is going to date me. But do you guys remember on Nickelodeon in the morning, the cartoon David the Gnome? If you have not, first of all, it's my best. That was my childhood show. That was the show that made me an animal lover, that formative for me. But I rewatched it over the last month and a half, and it is amazing, you guys. It really stands the test of time. So I want to know, where are my David the Gnome girlies out there? Because I know there were some of you out there. So if you watched David the Gnome as a kid, leave a message on the Instagram for this particular episode because I have to know that I'm not the only person out there. I feel like I've gone my entire adult life asking other people if they've heard it or watched David the Gnome, and they look at me like I have a fetus growing out of the side of my head. I don't know what you're talking about. Y'all, like it was on before or after Gullah Gullah Island. I can't remember, but far superior. So, yeah, I haven't really watched or done much of anything related to true crime, to be honest with you. I am kind of back in it with you here. Also, I mean, side note entirely, I realize that I have cold medicine brain at the moment, but I know that this audience with the Chris Chan content is, 50% for it and 50% against it. Half of you are like, tie this shit up. And I respect that. So, I mean, back to what I was doing before, every other episode being, a true crime, a random true crime case or news update, and then Chris Chan. I'm going to try to get the Chris Chan content wrapped up in like 3 to 4 more episodes of it. It's going to be very abbreviated because you guys, it's now the end of an era. Yesterday, Gino Samuel dropped episode 85 of the Comprehensive History of Chris Chan. And that is the episode that everyone has been waiting on for years. At least as of right now, it is the final episode in that documentary series. It is the conclusion. And yes, it covers the allegations of Chris Chan raping slash SAing slash whatevering his 80 plus year old mother. And it covers it in detail. And I'm obviously going to cover that myself as well, but I'm just going to tell all of you Gino Samuel does it better than I ever could. And he plays the full call with Bella in that episode. And I watched it earlier today, and I just it's it's been a while since I read it. I actually don't think I haven't heard it in a couple years, but it's the reason why I wanted to cover Chris Chan to begin with. It's not the fact that he acts ridiculous or the question of his cognitive functioning and level of autism or him having troll girlfriends and stuff like that. That's not why I started to cover Chris Chan to begin with. It's because Chris Chan admitted to having a sexual relationship with his own mother. He went into incredibly graphic detail about what he did to his mother. He admitted that she had reservations and argued against it, like basically told him to stop in the beginning of that activity, which definitely indicates rape to me, especially because it's alleged and suspected that she has very clear dementia, which I do believe that as well. And the fact that Chris Chan was originally arrested, was held in jail for a couple years, basically the max sentence of what it would have been originally, and then let off. And ultimately, I mean, that's true crime, right, you guys? Committing this heinous act against your senile mother, being arrested for it, admitting to it multiple times, and that's something that was made that was something that I was refamiliarized with Gino's documentary as well in this episode, is that Kristen just admitted to Bella in one phone call. He admitted it multiple times. He admitted it multiple times. It's crazy to me. It's sad. I feel a whole bunch of different emotions about it. But that to me, today's episode by Gino Samuel, if you haven't seen it or if you haven't even started it and you want to know how all of that went down with allegations, the leaked phone calls, the leaked emails and text messages, check it out because we're going to be covering that probably in 3 or 4 more episodes. I'm going to really try to get this tied up so we can move forward into other cases that may have a broader appeal for sure. But before we get into that, just quick housekeeping so you know where to find the show. We Saw the Devil on Twitter and Facebook. We Saw the Devil podcast on Instagram. And then if you want to follow me and the food I eat, the concerts I go to, and the dogs and animals that I have, you can follow me at Robin_WSTD. And on a last note, I'm also this week going to be uploading a Patreon only episode too, and it is probably the most vulnerable I have been in this entire podcast thus far. I'm really going to talk about some of my life experiences and stuff that I've been through, and writing it was really cathartic and really kind of hard. To the patrons who are listening to this episode, be prepared for that this week. It's definitely the most intimate episode that I will have produced thus far. And apologies again for any sort of superfluous noise in this particular episode. Like I said, I'm completely deaf in my left ear. I have my rescue dog in my office with me, and she's kind of tap dancing around. It's currently 4 a.m. in the morning. 4 a. That's kind of redundant, huh? It's 4 a.m. And my parrot also just woke up and started yelling. So basically, I'm doing my best, guys. I am doing my best. So let's go ahead and pick up where we left off previously. That is June of 2016 in the previous episode. As I discussed in that episode, there was a sex off that happened with the internet troll Johan. So if you guys recall, there was a lesbian couple. They were actually trolls, and they were going to utilize Chris for his sperm as a sperm donor. And Chris was in talks with them online just as a potential match there. But Chris lost the sex off. And what that meant was that the internet troll Johan basically won the lesbian couple. And it was ridiculous. But Chris truly believed it. Other than that, Chris was on quote unquote high arousal alert this month, investing in a new anime sex pillow. And he decided to make a video with it and introduce her to the world. But more importantly, in June of 2016, Chris filed a petition to legally change his name to Christine Weston Chandler. But like I've mentioned in the last two episodes, we've approached the Finachu Crisis. And what I mean by Financial Crisis is this. Chris, at this point, basically just goes into a constant begging for donations mode. He makes YouTube videos and Facebook posts asking people for food, toys, things that he needs, and even medication or surgeries for his mother, Barb. And Barb actually appears in two of these videos, and she does not look well at all. And again, guys, we're in 2024 now, right? All this Chris Chan stuff went down in 2020, but we're talking about 2016 right now. So as early as 2016, Barb did not appear well on camera and people were concerned. So I'm going to play a video right now where Chris claims that he needs $100 for her asthma, just so you can get a sample of the nature of these videos.
Hello, this is Christine Chandler coming to you live from home, and I definitely have a more urgent and special request. My mother really needs her medication for her asthma. That's right here. That's her right there, Barbara. Anyway, it's like $100. So we really need the money, because we don't have $100. So yeah, just like I said earlier, you can send all donations directly to my email address via PayPal. And if you don't know how, there's a link to a video underneath this one. So please help us. Have a good day. Thank you.
And y'all, what is so insane about most of these videos is that Chris is back in Branchland Court because remember there was the house fire where it caught on fire due to the coffee pot being hooked up in the bathroom and the door sawing it and basically creating a spark. He's back in Branchland Court from the other house that they had while the home was being mitigated, the fire and stuff. The hoarding situation is what caused that fire. But now Chris is back at Branchland Court making these begging videos in a room that is positively stuffed with thousands of action figures. And no, I'm not exaggerating or joking. Thousands. And it's clear that he's spending most of his tugboat, or if you're new here, his social security, on collectibles and toys. And then he runs out of money and then goes to the internet to beg for more money for bills and stuff. It becomes just this whole cycle. This is also the month where Stephanie Buscakes was discovered. But don't get too excited because if you read the ad, Chris doesn't do anal. But we discussed Stephanie Buscakes in the previous episode as well. If you want to hear all about that in its glory and listen to the video, head back to the previous episode. Okay, y'all. So, July of 2016, we are finally here. I am so excited about this episode in particular because this, for me, was one of the biggest, what the fuck moments of Chris's descent into literal madness. Okay. So, let's begin July 2016. We're going to begin it with a post that Chris made on Reddit on July 3rd. Now, around this time, Chris became obsessed with the idea that all cis men had a hidden vagine near their genitals, specifically their taint. So again, Chris became obsessed with the idea that all cis men, for those of you who are unaware, that means biologically and self-identified male, that they all have a hidden vagina deep inside the tissues of their taints. So his Facebook post read, quote, "Hey, boys, get ready to have your minds blown. As Planet Dolan has said, everyone is female inside the womb until if and when the Y chromosome mutates the girl to be a boy. Which, when you really think about it, with everyone being female initially, even pre-birth, being quote unquote manly or manliness is very much made up. Anyhow, and you can try this at home in private, push, although tough, into the center of the skin patch between your legs, the taint. You may find one or two grooves hidden under there. One of them, yes, is your unbirthable vagina, since the uterus would be shrunk during the Y mutation. Punchline. If every gay male knew about this, all they'd have to do is cut their taint and they'd have a whole new hole to play with. Seriously though, maybe professional surgery would be best for that business opening. Or for the price of Wi Fi and your YouTube viewing device, you could try opening it in as soon as 6 months. Less if listened to more often with a subliminal track. Check out this one from my favorite channel that offers it on YouTube. So in July of 2016, Chris was talking about magical taint vaginas on biological males. And he started listening to this random YouTube channel, which I'll get into more in a moment. But that post was very much sadly a harbinger of what was to come just a couple weeks later. Chris then uploads a desperate video where he begs for donations. And I know I've stated this before, but this house is just filling up with toys, and he's obviously using his tugboat money for it. Like, I can't really describe the general public sentiment on Chris because it went from laughing stock with the Jule saga and the others and the troll girlfriends to the fire happened and people feeling really bad for Chris, coming together as an internet community, even people who bullied him horrifically and sending him money to try to help, to now Chris is, the girlfriend saga, the Tom girl saga. We've been going through all of these different situations, and public support is starting to wane a little bit, if you get my drift. In any case, one part of the video said, quote, "Help, please help. Help keep me and my mother fed. 74 years old she is. 2 dogs, 2 cats, got a family of kittens in the backyard. And I'm still looking for my sweetheart. You think I'm famous enough to get women? I have not been so fortunate. And yes, I've only had sex 2 times, ever, in my lifetime. So I'm not a virgin. And if they were both in the same month, and that was more than 4 years ago, you think your life sucks because you're dwelling in your mother's basement, you darn dirty internet trolls and cyberbullies. Think of how it is in my head. No, thank you. But on July 13th, Chris uploaded the infamous video titled Donations Further Requested, Please. Except here's the thing. Barb by herself appears in this video instead of Chris entirely. Chris is not in the video. He's filming Barb. She says they need donations for her dental work. And in this video, she looks incredibly confused, like she doesn't know what's going on. It's incredibly concerning. But let's go back a little bit to early 2016. That subliminal frequency thing about the taint vagina. So, Chris discovered a YouTube channel called Subliminal Frequency Hypnosis Wizard Binaural Beats. Yes, that's a mouthful. Subliminal Frequency Hypnosis Wizard Binaural Beats. The channel hosted videos that utilize binaural sounds for a variety of things, but primarily what it referred to as gender dysphoria. It says binaural beats are an auditory illusion that occurs when you listen to 2 tones at different frequencies in different ears. Your brain creates a third tone called a binaural beat at the frequency difference between the 2 tones. And this particular YouTube playlist claimed to be able to, among other things, increase breast size and also transform a penis into a vagina. And again, if you recall in previous episodes I've done, Chris was obsessed with his breast size. He had more recently talked in the previous year or two, massaging them, playing with them, and then he documented any perceived growth. And that YouTube channel promised that listening to the videos would help enlarge breasts and also cause a man's inner vagina to descend. It is a whole other level of Looney Tunes. On July 24th, a little after 10 a.m., Chris made the following Facebook post, and Guys, bear with me. It's long, but I truly believe that it kind of paints the full picture of his mental state at this time. Again, we are descending still further into madness. So, July 24th, 2016 at 11:40 a.m. Announcement. As a number of online people may be aware, I have been grooving with the subliminal frequencies and binaural beats towards my transition from male to female body. The source being the Subliminal Frequency Hypnosis Wizard's binaural beats channel on YouTube. Last March, I've started simple with growing my breasts out with their breast control hormone track. It worked to my amazement at a full inch outward per week in about 2 months. I've also listened to change my nipples to teats, as well as being. That's a hard one to keep a straight face on. I've also listened to change my nipples to teats, as well as begin producing breast milk. Also, related from a separate track on another channel, I have eased and cured the worst of my autism too. But since last May, I decided to take it a step further and begin my transition from male to female with the penis to vagina tracks, including the individual organ changing tracks, and for a while, the intersex track. And 2 Fridays ago, July 15th, while I slept that night, my labia started splitting open, and I found the initial hole and blood the next morning. And over the few days that followed, the labia opened to its full length, and I've been dealing with the blood that came out. I've been keeping it clean, daily monitoring it, and treating it with rubbing alcohol. I have started the wheels in motion for the full HRT and SRS by seeing my doctor last Friday because I felt like I didn't want to wait much longer to fully become the woman that I should have been born as. With that, I've uploaded a photo of my labia for all 18 and older individuals to see. But I do not want to be overrun with tabloid and paparazzi attention over this or have a total big deal made. As for my own statement to quote, I will state the following. Have belief and faith in what your body can do, and with such binaural beats and frequencies, as well as persistence and patience, what you'd like can happen for you. And if you'd like to offer your support in my transition as well, I accept financial donations via PayPal to my email address, chrischansonachu@aol.com. Thank you and have a good and safe day. Can you imagine being friends with Chris Chan on Facebook, whether an old classmate? I mean, he had old teachers on there. He had a couple family members, I believe, on Facebook, gal pals, and coming across and reading that because that's what happened. And I can't honestly fathom that. But what absolutely lays me out is the comments to that very first post. Jessica Quinn, one of Chris's Facebook friends, said, "Fuck it. I'm out. I don't even know what one can say about this. Why would you post something this messed up? Good luck with whatever it is you're trying to do with your life. I tried." I just don't get it. Why would you post this kind of stuff? You were just complaining about how people invade every aspect of your life and that you wouldn't share anything so personal, and now you do this. I don't even know what to think right now. My mind is blown. Kenneth Englehart said, I would advise most strongly against any nude photos of yourself on the internet. It's prime trolling stuff, and it comes across exercising extremely poor judgment. Jessica is absolutely 100% correct in this. Your nude photos of your quote unquote equipment have absolutely no place on the internet. Quinn said, Ken, it's a little more serious than that. This could be a major health problem brewing. What's more important is his health. Whomever is putting Christine up to this, please stop. This could lead to a serious life-threatening health problem. I know many people follow what goes on this page. Whomever is pulling the strings really needs to stop. It's sick and twisted, and a life could very well be at stake here. Please, Christine Weston Chandler, go and get looked at. I support your right to be who you want, but this is a very serious matter. Ken then responded and said, Christine, this could be a sign of an infection setting in. Do you understand that if this gets into your bloodstream, you could very well end up at the ICU at the hospital? This isn't transitioning. This is endangering your health for nothing. This is bullshit. You have a family member who is dependent on your well-being. Melanie said, she's evolving, I tell you. And then Chafe said, I'm so confused. Same. Because so many people were piling on and asking him if he'd gone to the hospital or had someone take a look at it, he made a second Facebook post that said, feeling annoyed. I have had my labia area examined last night. No infection at all. I am clean. Very clearly, Chris had not had that examined because it was very clearly infected and something was very, very wrong with it. So basically there was a back and forth on the internet of people trying to convince Chris to go into the hospital, and he finally actually did. 2 days later, apparently Chris had gone and sought treatment for it and got a cream and, stuff to take care of the wound, which that's what it absolutely was. So what happened was Chris was pressured into going to the emergency room, which he did. Except he lied to the doctors at the ER and told them that his testicles hurt, that his balls hurt. And so the doctors gave him some extra strength Tylenol and said, go home. So Chris showed copies of the ER discharge papers to random people on the internet to prove that he had gone. But it was very clear because Chris isn't very bright of the reason given to the doctors. And so that was found out and uncovered. And so finally, he was basically bullied into going back to the ER. And what happened, you guys, is that Chris took a kitchen knife and cut his taint wide open in order to free the vagina that he believed was waiting to descend. Again, Chris Chan took a kitchen knife to his own taint, cut it deeply open to free the vagina that he believed was waiting to descend. Yes. September, same thing. Chris kept begging for money. He went to a pride festival there in Charlottesville. He got a new cat. And more so, he started posting a lot of videos and a lot of content, and also just on Facebook as well, hating on Donald Trump. He hated Donald Trump, and he started really, really posting a lot about him. October as well, Finachu Crisis all the way, begging for money. By November, he pretty much was just sending nonstop death threats to Trump and posting about Trump. Then we head into 2017. I guess the big highlight there is that Chris tried to donate blood, but was told that he couldn't because he is transgender. He spent a lot of time again just railing and going off against Trump and sending open letters to Trump's family members and posting them all over the internet. Nothing really happened in February, more of the same. March of 2017, he just kind of became more unhinged. He went on a rant against voice actress Tara Strong and her friend regarding his half brother Cole Smithy. Remember his half brother basically disowned their mother and he left as a kid, never looked back, and Chris had only met him a handful of times. Chris really wanted his half brother to come home and take care of Barb so he could go off and, find a sweetheart. He began harassing a Brony convention that was based out of California for gas money, basically to give him money so that he could drive from Virginia all the way to California to attend the Brony convention. He was just becoming more and more and more present and vocal online, really. April 2017 marked the 1-year anniversary of the Finachu Crisis, and it became known at this point that there really actually was a crisis going on. Also, in the previous episode, I talked about how Barb had to go to court multiple times because, they weren't paying their bills, one of those being the mortgage. So there was a payment company middleman between Barb and the mortgage company, right? That was part of the lawsuit, the ruling in that lawsuit. So they hadn't been getting paid. Barb had not been making, or Chris for that matter. Well, I don't know how functional, but he was an adult. No one had been making mortgage payments. Why? Because Chris had been wasting all of that money and most of the donations on games and anime or game collectibles or sex dolls and pillows. So Chris ends up selling his Sonic totem for $1,500. Now, with that $1,500 that he made, again, he did it out of supposed desperation. Does he pay the mortgage? No. Does he pay any bills? No. He buys Barb a $400 necklace and himself some toys and frappuccinos from Starbucks. And then just a couple weeks, like 2 weeks later, Barb would be seen on camera yet again begging for money for an electric bill while wearing the $400 necklace that Chris had bought her. People, and by people I mean every Chris Chan observer, everyone at that point with the visual of that necklace on Barb, everyone was tired and over it. Nothing truly spectacular happens, I would say, over the next 5-6 months, just pretty much more of the same. And we're going to make it to October of 2017. Chris announced to the world that he planned to meet Jessica Quinn in person on October 6th. Now, Jessica Quinn was a very obvious troll, and the day before he was supposed to meet her, she broke up with him and shut down her Facebook and all of her social media accounts. And she told Chris that it was because of the trolls harassing her. Chris reacted very poorly to this. And by that, I mean he recorded and posted one of the most, I would say, iconic videos from all of Christory. I mean, since the start of the Tom Girl saga. I'm going to play some of that video right now. And if you've been listening to this podcast or watching any of the promo videos that I posted about this Chris Chan series, you've no doubt seen it. So I'm just going to play a couple seconds of it.
I'm very upset right now. I open myself up to a damn bunch of internet trolls. You damn fiends! What the fuck? You hacked into her account! You hacked into her Facebook, you goddamn miserable, lifeless cretins! Just to start a relationship! You... All I wanted now was my peace of mind and happiness. I thought y'all wanted that from me too. Now, obviously, I was so fucking wrong. You really blew it this time. This is not funny if you laugh. This is not funny. It's singer. These Q&As done it over with, and moreover, you all are just ultimately, really, crazily, you are so super fucked up, cursed. Goodbye.
Now, also in October of 2017, we have what I consider to be the most important influence on modern Chris, the Chris that we know today in 2024, and also the complete and total destruction of his sense of reality. And that would be the idea guy. And I'm going to directly read this from the quickie, okay? Because I don't want any details spared. In September of 2017, Joshua Wise contacted Chris to commission artwork. And so they started talking. With the two in contact, Wise decided to see for himself Chris's gullibility. In late October 2017, he again contacted Chris, posing as John Yamada. As Yamada, Wise claimed to be a soldier from Gamma Industry, a location set in the fictional video game franchise Hyperdimension Neptunia, and inquired if Chris still had his old Sega Dreamcast console, telling him it contained a possible portal into Quickville. Quickville being Chris Chan's, magical Charlottesville equivalent in his anime Sonichu comic books, right? Like Quickville was a fictional location of his comic. It's not a real place. Josh Wise used the lore from Neptunia to play into Chris's existing preconceptions about reality and his belief that fictional worlds exist in alternate dimensions, giving him validation over those beliefs, which primed Chris for falling under Wise's spell and eventually encouraged him to retreat further into his fantasy world to cope with his real world problems. And I'm not one to just read word for word from things, guys, but this is a very pivotal moment in Christory, and so I just want to read the quickie here. And there's also a lot of details, so I just want to make sure it's all correct. After convincing Chris of his persona John Yamada's ability to access Quickville's dimension, Josh began to manipulate Chris's beliefs and insert his own ideas. He also undermined Chris's attempts to restore his fantasy world. As Wise put it, quote, Chris thinks he has a psychic link to Quickville, but every time he tries to change the scenario to his will, I always say it fucks up and makes things worse. For example, in December of 2017, Wise told Chris that Jamsta, a fictional DJ in Quickville, had been arrested for molesting Punchy and Tails to Sonichu. Chris, not liking this development, tried to have Jamsta acquitted. He tried using his psychic link to Quickville to convince the judge to acquit Jamsta, but Wise countered by telling Chris that the judge didn't believe him since he had stepped down as mayor. If you recall, Chris stepped down as mayor in a previous issue of Sonichu. Chris then tried to influence the jury, but Wise again countered by telling him that while it worked and Jamsta was acquitted, as a consequence, a mob was out to get Jamsta, sending a photo of rioting as proof. In another example, Wise role-played as the Chris of Quickville and claimed to be a Satanist, and that atheism, Neptunia, and Islam were the main beliefs of Quickville, as Christianity had been forgotten after he had stepped down as mayor. So, the real world Chris reacted to this information by saying Angelica would enforce Christianity again, and Wise countered that by telling him Angelica became a Satanist and more people were converting to Islam. Chris was also so suggestible under Wise's influence that at times Wise would float an idea and Chris's imagination would run wild with the concept. Remember when I told you a moment ago that the John Yamada persona, like when it told Chris that the Sega Dreamcast had a portal? After he learned that, Chris decided to run the console for 24 hours, placed his hand on it, and felt a shock. He imagined that it meant the Neptunia goddess within it was possessing him. Furthermore, after having been in contact with Josh Wise's Neptunia CPU goddess personas, Chris decided to abandon the Christian religion in favor of Neptunia. And one reason he cited was that he could, quote, actually communicate with the Neptunia goddesses. Eventually, after the idea guys were ousted, the influence resulted in Chris identifying as a goddess, CPU Blueheart. Now, y'all, if you go to Twitter right now, which is what I am doing, and you type in Chris Chan, what comes up is Chris's account. And Chris's Twitter account, and basically all of his online accounts now, it's under Jesus Christ Chan Sonichu hyphen CPU Blueheart. This is why Chris calls themselves a goddess. Goddess Blueheart, sometimes Chris will refer to himself as. And that is strictly due to the influence from Josh Wise and the Idea Guys. In another instance, Chris believed that his past Quickville counterpart, the Sonichu Chris from the comic, his comic version of himself, had been kidnapped by Nazis and given satanic powers. So, Wise pushed him further and told real world Chris that his past counterpart had abolished women's rights to enable his love quest and that he had helped the Nazis win World War II. Chris then immediately illustrated his modern Quickville counterpart confronting and assaulting his past life one. And this is something that I haven't covered almost at all in this podcast or in this series because it would just drag on and you guys would probably be miserable, is the content in Sonichu, the comics itself. I kind of touched on it in the very, very early episodes, especially when Chris would write in random internet trolls or sweethearts or the dean of the school, and when a lot of his real life, life imitating art, imitating life kind of stuff happened, that then it just kind of became batshit. And it's so out there, and I don't think most of you really care about the plot line of Chris Chan's comic. But this is really where it kind of starts to go off the rails as well, primarily with Idea Guys and his new influence, and Chris believing now because, the narcissism and the self-aggrandizement of Chris believing themselves to be a goddess. It's a whole mess. It's a whole mess. On April 10th, Chris came out as bisexual, and if you've been listening to this series for a while, you know how flabbergasting that fact is by itself. On Facebook, he wrote, I realized with my sweethearts that I am a bisexual, so I will be needing to get a bisexual colored flag to replace this one. Celebrate lesbian pride for yourself with my full kindness and support. Chris's entire life, and especially a lot of his most colorful reactions to internet trolls back in the past, had been because people would call him gay or pretend that he was gay or that he had had sex with another man. And so for Chris to come out as bisexual was actually pretty astounding. On May 10th, Chris had reached pretty much an ultimate breaking point. At that time, he was lashing out and being pretty much overtly shitty to any person who reached out to him for any reason whatsoever. And he posted the following video, which I'm posting audio of here because you can tell Chris is incredibly off here. So let's go ahead and listen to this video.
Hello everybody, this is Good Thing Chandler coming to you live from home, and I'm gonna tell y'all some real true shit. I'll tell you what, yes, it was me on Twitter. I'm sick of the trolls, I'm sick of the hate. Hate, got the god dang commentary that we're not tolerating freaking commentary anymore. Sick of the commentary, hateful, hurtful, spiteful commentary. I'm tired of being hated on. I'm very stressed out. I'm human. I'm sorry to. I need a break. I've been a sentimental individual. My father always told me to stick up for and stand up for myself, and he always did the same thing. You know he did. He told you all the address of this very house and our phone number. Gave you, like, you know what? You want to come at us? You want to come at us? You come at us. Every morning. He was. And I just tired of constant day. Hatred! And like a certain person many years ago, my kindness, generosity, sentiment being taken advantage of will not be tolerated. And I will not tolerate any more hurtful comments or BS from any of you spiteful, hating people anymore. You better shape up, be kind, be courteous, or it's that.
You can tell by listening here that Chris is definitely one sandwich short of his picnic basket, even more so than normal. In June of 2017, Chris attended Too Many Games, which was an annual convention that took place in Philadelphia. On day 2, it was being reported that Chris was being handsy with and kissing attendees who tried to get pictures with him. And ultimately, he was kicked out of that convention. And this is another huge moment in Christory because it was so public. Chris reacted to this by having a complete toddler-style meltdown in the venue, and he curled up on the floor in a fetal position and was crying and, kind of shaking and yelling. They actually called the police and brought in an escort to get Chris out of there. An online user by the name of Jab50Yen actually sat and helped Chris alongside the mother of another autistic child who was also attending the event. And they quite literally sat in the floor with Chris, rubbed the mom. The mom was also a nurse, and so she kind of recognized what was going on. Also, again, mother of an autistic child. And so she would, kind of rub him on the back and comforted him. Her name was Linda. And just ultimately, they were able to get Chris up and out of the venue. But the user, Jab50Yen, he was talking about how the police were just kind of like, what the fuck is going on here? And that they were starting to be rough and aggressive with Chris. And he and this woman had to basically tell the cops, let us handle it. Let us handle it. He's well known. He's autistic. Like, let us help him. And they did. And they were able to get Chris out. Of course, Chris denied any wrongdoing whatsoever. He went on multiple, Facebook and internet rants about how he did nothing wrong and that people wanted to kiss him and that he wasn't a predator or anything like that. But that's the thing about Chris, y'all, is that Chris has shown repeatedly that he actually is a predator. And again, I'm at the end of this episode now. We're actually going to stop right here. And if you need further proof of that, again, episode 85 of Geno Samuel, the comprehensive, Chris Chan doc, because it is a nightmare and a cesspool. But we're going to stop right here at June of 2017. But again, I'm giving the series just 3 to 4 more episodes to tie up and put a bow on it. And then we're going to move forward. But what do y'all think of Chris Chan so far? Again, I know that maybe it's kind of 50-50 split on whether people care about Chris Chan or not. And I'm just curious, what do you guys think? And I think that's why I find Chris Chan so fascinating as a whole, is not only has he been able to completely evade justice or consequences for any of his previous actions, really. And that was another crazy thing too, while watching Geno Samuel documentary earlier today, the new episode, is that I had just forgotten how Chris admitted to it. Very, 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 very specific acts, you guys. And I'm not saying Chris was like, yeah, I diddled my mom. Chris went into detail, explicit, sexual, graphic detail on how he touched her and how they did stuff and what they did. And that's something that I've struggled with too. I mean, through all of this, is just Chris is not high functioning. He can barely take care of himself. I'm even concerned that he has a license and drives by himself, but alas. But what we all have to remember too is that Chris is manipulative and he is aware of how to do this, right? He's not just sitting there completely oblivious to every single social clue. He does know right from wrong. He's shown many times how he tries to manipulate and lie and so on and so forth, and that he does know that it's wrong. So I have very, very little empathy overall for it. But I digress, y'all. That is it for today's episode. Again, I'm going to be putting out a very intimate and personal episode for the Patreon patrons this week. I would love to get another chat scheduled so we can all hop on Discord. And if you have a mic, you can hop on mic. The next episode, I haven't decided yet on the case or whether it's going to be a news update episode, but I feel like there's a lot of stuff going on in Idaho right now that I would like to talk about, because I find the upcoming legal battle and the legal strategy just really fascinating in the Brian Koberger case. But in any case, later this week, there will be a second episode dropping as well. And as always, if you're liking the content, please head over to iTunes or whatever platform you're using to listen on and leave a 5-star review. It means the absolute world to me and helps with a lot of different areas of the podcast, such as sponsorships and stuff like that. And if you're one of those that like the old content and you're just waiting for the content to change, just make sure you're following on all social media accounts. So Facebook, Instagram, being We Saw the Devil Podcast. And if you want to follow me personally, that would be Robin_WSTD. And again, y'all, thanks for bearing with me. Again, I am partially deaf right now. And so just sincere early apologies if the episode is not edited perfectly in this case. That's it for today, y'all. Until next crime.